Hello again, folks. SkullGorman back after a 2-week hiatus. I know I haven't done a video in a while. I really have no excuse to give you except I have been busy. I have had some things come up. I was on holiday for a little while, and that kind of clashed in with what I was doing with the Halloween theme, the Countdown to Halloween, which kind of was a bit derailed after that. And not only that, I just haven't had the time or the energy to do any videos, and plus with the year kind of beginning to wind down a little bit, it's kind of really hard to try and find any time to do any videos at the moment. Plus I do this as a hobby, so that's pretty much my excuse. But other than that, I hope everyone out there is doing well. So, to pretty much make up for the 2-week of not any videos at all, I've decided, if you remember a while ago back in September, I said, I did a Q&A video saying that you can send me questions and I'll answer them in due time. Well, that was back in September, and now we're in November, so I've kind of left this a little bit late. I'm a little bit late to the party when it comes to these things. I've never done this before, but nevertheless, we're going to get this out of the way now. So today, I'm going to give you my answers. So with that in mind, as you already saw, I have a cup of coffee. Let's not waste any time. Let's get started, shall we? And don't worry about the light. It's very bright today, depending on what day you're watching this as well. So let's see. Starting from the bottom and working all the way at the top. Sorry. Let's see. The first two questions are actually from Zach, as DizzleRizzle8707. Hey, Zach. And he's actually sent about 8 questions, and they're all quite good questions. They're all quite good questions, so I'm going to start from the top and work at the bottom with these. Let's see. Question 1. What got you into Transformers? Well, I mentioned this a while ago back in the Getting to Know Transformers fan video, so I don't like repeating myself, but I'll go ahead and say it anyway. Let's see. It was back during the 1990s, when I was about 5 or 6, and one of the channels, there were 2 channels I remember watching when I was a child. There was Cartoon Network, which was one of them, and Fox Kids, back when it was called Fox Kids, and they actually put on good shows. And one of those shows that I distinctively remember for a lot of different reasons was Transformers. Not because it was a long-running show at the time, because it was an old cartoon, but it was a show that was at the time split up into 5-minute segments between and after shows that ended. And at first when I saw it, I really didn't like it. Can you believe that? That at one point I didn't like Transformers. Yeah, so at first I really didn't like it. And eventually I started opening up to it and then watching it continuously, and then finding out this is actually very, very good, because it was a cartoon. And the problem with the show, though, was at the time when it was airing, is that it wasn't shown into any chronological order, episode 1, da-da-da-da-da-da. It was just many different episodes just chopped up into 5-minute segments between and after shows that ended. And from there, I was hooked onto Transformers from day one. I really wanted to find out more about it, so after that I went to a lot of book sales when I was very young. On a Sunday, as you can remember on the Q&A video I did, not the Q&A video, the Getting to Know Transformers fan video, and it was every Sunday that I pretty much persuaded my mother to take me there and just let me look at all the Transformers and buy which ones that I could afford. And the funny thing is, as well, is that even though when I was very young I didn't like Transformers at first, I can still remember, though, and people really don't have, people don't have very good memories when they're children, and I don't especially, but I think the one thing that I can really remember off of it is, like I said, I really didn't like it at first, and, I'm sorry, my throat. I really didn't like it at first, and when I started getting hooked on it, that's when I realized, why did I hate this show at the very beginning? And that's a question that I will kind of really never get an answer for, so there you go. That's pretty much how I got into it. Question 2, I hope that answers the question, by the way. Let's see, question 2, what was the first anime that you watched that got you into anime? The first anime I ever watched when I was a lad. Like I said, this is back during the 1990s, and this was on Fox Kids at the time when Transformers was running on its 5-minute little breaks. The first anime that I can really remember watching, and I was, let's see, I think it was about, let's see. I was about 9 years old when I first saw this. So this is pretty much what got me into. This is what got me started into anime. The first anime that I ever really watched, that really ever got me into anime, that helped me get me where I am in terms of being an anime fan, would have to be, and you're gonna prepare for this, Samurai Pizza Cats. Yep. I watched Samurai Pizza Cats when I was younger, and really who didn't? Because, let's see, when I was 9, I saw a couple of adverts for this at around 8 in the morning. And keeping in mind, this was at a school day. This was pretty much on a weekday during the school term. And I couldn't watch it because I had to get to school. But I had it, the funny thing is that I actually, I set a tape recorder for the time when Samurai Pizza Cats was airing, from 8 o'clock in the morning to God knows what time it ended. And every time I was out, I pretty much recorded the video, and not only recording Samurai Pizza Cats, but also recorded other shows. So there was pretty much no time limit set, or anything like that. And when I got home from school, the first thing that I did was, not only did I watch Transformers, I also watched Samurai Pizza Cats. And the funny thing about Samurai Pizza Cats, looking back on it now, is that it's one of those shows that really, it's silly because it's very dated. And it's ludicrous because it's one of those shows that you can't take seriously, and you're really not meant to because it's a comedy. But even though I'm in my 20s, I still think that show is pretty good, and even I tend to watch it a lot of the time because this is what really got me into anime. And when I first saw that show, I was like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. This is what I really want to try and discover. And from there, in terms of anime, when I was younger, I ended up watching things like Flint the Time Detective and Pokemon and Shinzo and all that stuff. So a lot of different, and Digimon as well, would you believe? So I ended up watching a lot of different anime shows from a very young age. But Samurai Pizza Cats was the very first anime that I watched when I was a child that really got me into anime, that really exploded the way of what anime was to me the very first time. So there you go. That's pretty much my little backstory about how I got into anime. Let's see. Question 3: if you had to rank your top 8 anime of all time, how would you rank them? Well, that's a kind of a tricky question because in terms of anime, I have a couple of different favorites that I could spend hours ranting about and saying how much I like them. But the top 8 that I can really think of that I would rank in terms of how good they are or in terms of what year they were made. Let's see. The top 8. Well, without giving too much away, I would think the only way that I could rank the top 8 anime that I have watched would have to be in the genre that they're in, because they're every different genre. There's every different genre of anime, and for me, it's really hard to kind of say, oh, well, here's the top 8, and there you go. But let's see if I can start from the bottom, work at the top. Number 8, it will probably have to be Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex. I really like that show a lot. And probably number 7, it would have to be Neon Genesis Evangelion, another show that I watched in my teens. Number 6, I think, would have to be Tank Police, both the old one and the new one. I do like Tank Police a lot. Anything by Masami Nishiro is always worth watching. Number 5, I think it'd probably have to be Cowboy Bebop. It's not number 1. I think Cowboy Bebop's a great show. It's just a bit overrated sometimes. Number 4, I think, would have to be... number 4, I think, would probably have to be... Gungrave. Gungrave is really one of those shows... I didn't like the games, but Gungrave really is one of those shows that has a sort of Once Upon a Time in America feel, and plus it's anything about the Mafia is always worth watching. Number 3, I think, would have to be Hellsing. I really do like Hellsing a lot. And number 2, I think, would probably have to be number 2. What would number 2 have to be? Number 2. I think number 2 would probably have to be, and this is a bad choice, I know, but it's one of those animes that I like because it's so bad it's good. Angel Cop, funnily enough, and not many people talk about Angel Cop nowadays. And number 1, and I'm gonna come back to this later on in the video. My number one would have to be Bubblegum Crisis, the original Bubblegum Crisis. I never liked Tokyo 2040, so the ranking order of how good they are, starting from Ghost of the Shell Standalone Complex and ending at number one with Ghost of the Shell, Bubblegum Crisis. That's how I would do it. I would rank them by how those shows tell their stories and by how sorry, and by how they came across to me as being good shows when I watched them. So, I hope that answers the question. Let's see, number 5, and this is a question that I really have a problem answering. Let's see, at number 5, you've been put in charge of a Transformers and Kamen Rider crossover toy line. What characters from Kamen Rider brackets, you can use any series but try not to use more than one, are in the toy line and what would they transform into? Well, let's see. I've already said before that I really, and for anyone else who doesn't really know, I don't like Kamen Rider. I really don't get the series. But if you like it, that's fine. If you like it, then that's your business. But for me, it's one of those things that I really have a hard time trying to watch. And I really don't get Tokusatsu, so... But, if I was put in charge of a Transformers and Kamen Rider crossover, I don't think this would happen or not. But, because, of course, Kamen Rider is owned by Bandai, Transformers is owned by Hasbro. It's hard to really kind of see two companies collide together and make something out of this. But, let's see. If I was put in charge of a crossover between those two franchises, in terms of toys, it would probably have to be... I'm going to choose 3 characters, because these are the only 3 characters that I can think of that I've actually taken some time to sit down and really watch from these 3 shows. Let's see. I'd probably have to choose, let's see, a character like, let's see, number 1 I have to choose Ankh from Kamen Rider Double, Kamen Rider O's, because, let's see, Ankh, what would he turn into? Well, he has that sort of very bird-like, aesthetic to him. He gives us sort of like a demonic bird. So, probably if he had to transform into anything, it'd probably be a bird. I don't know what more else I can say. The second one would probably have to be Gentaro from Kamen Rider, what was it, Kamen Rider Forze. And his suit is basically, the theme of the show is space, so I think you'd have to turn into something like a space shuttle, or something, I don't know. And number 3, I'd probably have to pull a name out of the hat and say, let's see... Kamen Rider Double. For some reason I can see him turning into a Porsche. I don't know why, but he has that sort of, those Porsche-like colors to it. But yeah, that's the best I can do. I'm sorry, I don't know what more I can say. I just don't like Kamen Rider, and trying to make a crossover out of these two lines is a tricky one, because you're going to get a lot of Kamen Rider fans saying this is a bad idea. You're going to get a lot of Transformers fans saying this is a bad idea. So there's no way this idea could work. So, there you go. I'm sorry if the question seems a little bit blunt, but no, I'm sorry if the answer seems a little bit blunt, but that's the best I can give. Let's see. Question 6. If you could change one thing about Transformers nowadays, what would it be and why? Well, the one thing I would change, and there really isn't much to change from this line at the moment, because the franchise at the moment is going very well, because of a couple of different things. If I had to change one thing, I wouldn't give the direction of any future Transformers films to Michael Bay. That's really it, because I feel that the three films, while they have made a lot of money and they did get a lot of people back into the line again, into the franchise again, back during 2007. I find those films a little bit, abysmal, personally, and I would like to see somebody else take over the reins when it comes to directing those films. Like, I can go through the list and name a couple of directors that I would like to see get involved. People like, Ridley Scott was always my first choice, so I'd want him. Christopher Nolan is another one. J.J. Abrams, probably Joss Whedon. So those four directors right there are probably allowed to direct any future Transformers films, because at the moment, with Transformers 4 set to come out in 2014, I've got no interest in seeing, and I would probably, if there's one thing I could change about that, I would probably cancel the production of that movie and leave it for about 4 more years, and wait for it to come along in about 2016. Wait 4 years, wait for the line to die down a little bit, and then make your film. Because I think having Michael Bay directing another Transformers film and making the same mistake that he's done with the other 3 really isn't the best way to go, and it seems like a running gag nowadays. So yeah, there you go. Other than that, there really isn't anything actually I can change from this franchise. The franchise at the moment is doing quite well for itself at the moment, because with Prime, kind of nearly running down to the point now where Beast Hunters is nearly around the corner, and the Prime line will soon be over. So it's a case of moving on from that, I think. Let's see. No, question 7. You've been granted the ability to have any superpower except for the power. Okay, you've been granted the ability to have any superpower except for the superpower to have all superpowers for 24 hours. What power do you have, and what would you do with it? Power would I have? What superpower would I have? I think I'd probably have the power to create life, to create any living organism just by one touch, or just by holding up my hands and going, create life! So Dr. Frankenstein, but... yeah, so that's the one power that I've always wanted to have. A lot of people will always go ahead and say, I want invisibility, I want super speed, I want super strength. The one power that I would want is to at least create life, to create new forms of life, and just see how those life would interact with the current life that we got on the planet that we're living on. There's so many different ways that you can look at this, and I think that in terms of creating life, there are so many different ways you could do it. So that's the one superpower I would have. And finally, question 8: interests outside of Transformers and anime. Well, it's really not a hard question to figure. It's not really a hard thing to figure that out. Outside of Transformers and anime, what do I have other interests in? I enjoy watching a lot of films. There's not a very rare occasion that you won't find me watching a film. As you can pretty much tell from, pretty much as you can tell behind me, the 2 posters behind me, Terminator and Wings of Wony-Armus. And above those 2 posters, up there, you can see pretty much the shelf of NECA McFarlane toys. I love the McFarlane line, and the NECA line as well. There's a lot of detail and a lot of ingenuity to be had in that line. And the one thing as well is that even though you've kind of seen me review a lot of McFarlane and NECA toys under the sun, and it can get a little bit boring sometimes, I do like these toys a lot. They're quite fascinating. As well as you can see the Frankfurt paintings up above. Other interests outside of that, I love cartoons. I'm a huge fan of animation. I'm more into older cartoons than newer cartoons. I know that that's the old way to go, but for me, and I know it's mostly because of nostalgia, for me it's always, I love watching old animation because it's interesting to see how back in that day, the people who did animation with pencil and paper had a lot of time and patience to do this. And even though it was a case of making money, it's still fascinating to see how it's made. Other interests, I love video games. I love a lot of video games. I play video games quite a lot. I love to read, and not only that, I pretty much any book that I like to read, I always like to read a lot of science fiction and fantasy, and that's pretty much it. Also to mention, I like listening to music as well. I have different kinds of music I like to listen to. So there you go. Zach, thanks a lot for the questions. Let's see. What do you think? Let's see. This question is from Optimus Prime 2471. What do you think of Transformers Prime so far? Well, since the line's now over, since the show's now over, it's had its problems. It has been a show that where around the middle of the second season, it was really doing nothing other than just wasting its time with the whole relic hunting subplot. But by the end, I was quite surprised with how it ended, and you know what, I'm quite satisfied with it. And it's no surprise that the show had went there with the cliffhanger that it went for, because with cliffhangers in Transformers shows, Beast Wars has done the exact same thing, Animated has done the exact same thing, Beast Machines as well has done the exact same thing. I won't count the Unicron Trilogy because cliffhangers in those are not that substantial. But I do like the line a lot. I think the line, even though it's derivative and it's very unoriginal and it's a throwback to Animated in the movies, I think the show is actually quite good. So I'm a little bit late to this. I know I should have done this video a little while ago, but while Prime is still going on, but whatever. So I like Prime at the moment. I've had my problems with it, but I like it as a series. Let's see. This question is from I don't know how you say his name. Dahaja. As a newbie to Transformers, what bad toy lines should I avoid? The bad toy lines I'd say you would avoid. Well, if I can tell you the bad lines to avoid, I can tell you the good lines to get into. Let's see. The good lines that you should get into. The Generation 1 line is always a very good line to get into. The Beast Wars line after Wave 2, the Transmetals line, and from there, because the toys from there are fantastic. The early figures, not so much. Other than that, let's see. The toys from the Energon line, the Transformers Energon line, are pretty good. But the only bad lines I can really think of are the early years of Beast Wars and a majority of the movie line, because there are some figures in there that are quite abysmal in terms of their articulation and stuff like that. Yeah, there really aren't that many lines to avoid when it comes to Transformers. The only two lines I can really say that you would avoid are the early years of Beast Wars and the movie line, with an exception of 2 figures. That's really all I can offer. So there you go. That helps. Let's see. Another question. A question from the Fallen835. Robert. Hi, Robert. How's it going? What's your favorite Transformers comic book and why? Great videos. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Let's see. Favorite Transformers comic. This is a question I don't like to answer because there are a lot of different Transformers comics out there that I really enjoy. I enjoy a lot of the early Marvel run of Transformers and the current Generation 1 line. I'm not a fan of the IDW line whatsoever, but my favorite comic and why? Let's see. I think it'd probably have to be, and you know where this is coming from. It will probably have to be the Transformers Hearts of Steel miniseries from IDW. The reason why is because it's a comic where, rather than having the Transformers just crash on modern Earth, like in the 80s or the 2000s or whatever, it's a comic where the Transformers actually crashed down, well, actually not crash down, but awaken in the year 1887, and they meet people like John Henry and Jules Verne and stuff like that. And the way that the comic presents itself, it's a very steampunk-inspired miniseries from the way that the Transformers look, and their Earth modes. Of course, most of them being nothing but steam engines and old flying contraptions. It's interesting to see how that idea comes across. And while the miniseries has got some problems in terms of its writing, it's my favourite because it's doing something different with the Transformers series. Rather than having the Transformers just awake on modern Earth, they awake in a different time period, and they become and they're different characters. Well, not different characters, but they take different alt forms rather than just taking the forms of cars and trucks and planes. They take the forms of steam engines and stuff like that. And that's an interesting idea as well, because the Evolutions miniseries of what Hearts of Steel is part of. The Evolutions miniseries is an interesting series because, like I said, it's an interesting way of taking the concept of Transformers and putting it in another timeline, in another time period, which opens up the possibility of other different ideas you can do. Like you could have Transformers awaken in medieval Japan, or medieval England, or ancient Rome. See what alt modes they take. That's actually an interesting idea. I would like to see IDW revisit that concept again. That's one of my favourite comics because it's a very it's doing something interesting with the Transformers series, and that's something that hasn't already been done. That's something that hasn't been done before. Let's see, and the other one as well would have to be Legacy of Unicron. There are a lot of different reasons why I like Legacy of Unicron. It's very well written. The art for the time is really, really good, and it's a comic that I can go back and read just any time. So, there you go. Thanks, Rob. I hope that answered the question. Mr. Soundwave1970 asks, what are your thoughts on Transformers Fall of Cybertron so far, and do you have it? Yes, I do. And if so, on what system? Well, what are my thoughts on Transformers Fall of Cybertron? I love the game. I know that a lot of people have very mixed opinions regarding that game, and it's no given why, because a lot of people have said that it's nothing but a cash-in of the Transformers line, and in a lot of ways that's what it is. But in so many ways, it's a very good follow-up to War for Cybertron, which was another example of how you do a Transformers video game and you make it work. But War for Cybertron really actually manages to ground the Transformers series in a much more depressing and darker setting, and give a real sense of what war is really like for the player. And it's a case of after I don't like doing this, but after sitting through the 3 films, I feel that War for Cybertron and Force Cybertron at least managed to tell something of a coherent story, if you can really call it that, because with those films it was about the human allies, and the Transformers were just background characters. These games, especially Force Cybertron, is about the Transformers, and what I like a lot about this game, Force Cybertron, is, like I said, it's a much more darker and depressing game, and it really gives the player a sense of what war and chaos is really about. And it manages to at least make these characters a bit more three-dimensional in terms of their personalities. And with it being a throwback to Generation 1, you can see where a lot of time and energy went into making this, and it's always nice to see this sort of thing come around, and plus, I would like to see where the series would go if there's a sequel to Fall of Cybertron. I hope there really is. But on the console I have it on the PS3, and I don't play online, so if that answers the question, sorry. But I really like the game a lot. I think the game, for its story, from a storytelling perspective, is interesting, and from a mythology standpoint, it manages to at least unravel a lot of the mythology that goes on into Transformers. And from a gameplay perspective, it's not bad. The gameplay has a little bit of problems, but what can you do? So there you go. I like the game a lot. Next question is from Mr. John35. Do you like the Transformers Prime cartoon? And if yes, which character would you most like to see come into it? I do like Prime a lot. There are, like I said in the previous question I answered in this, the series as a whole is a derivative throwback to the movies and animated. And there's no originality really found in this story in the show whatsoever. But as a whole, I do like it because the stories are well written, the voice acting is top notch, the characters have some wonderful development, a bit too much development. But in terms of characters though, there really aren't that many you can think of outside of the ones in the Autobots and Decepticons. So it's kind of a limited cast, the same way that Beast Wars and Animated and Beast Machines was. But if I would like to see one character come into the series and really help shape the show a lot more, it would have to be Kup. Sergeant Kup, as he's called nowadays. The reason is because his toy actually looks really good. I want to actually get that toy now because it's actually a much better toy than I thought possible. But Sergeant Kup, because it's been a while since Kup has appeared in a cartoon, and I think that if Kup was to appear in the new show, and I would get the feeling he won't, he should be played by Edward Asner. If you don't know who Edward Asner is, look him up. Kup and probably Hot Rod as well. I would love to see Kup and Hot Rod come back as characters in the show again, and have them just be who they were in the original cartoon. Just be the young Autobot and the old Autobot just playing off one another and just seeing how it goes. In terms of more characters, though, I would like to see more characters. I would like to see Hound come back, and Prowl come back, and the twins, Sunstreak and Sideswipe, come back. But other than that, the show's doing quite well so far. I like the show despite the problems that it's got. And even though the 99% of the show in Season 2 is wasting its time with the whole relic hunting subplot, I do feel that the show is doing quite well for itself. If it can, after the cliffhanger, if it can go in a different direction with the Beast Hunters line that's coming out soon in next year, I would like to see what the line can do now in the Beast Hunters line, and bring in more characters as well, and have more development. So there you go. Hope that answers your question. Let's see. The next question is from Death to Cornbread. Tim. Hey Tim, what's up? And this was a question that at the time, it's a bit like answering this now, but he said, "Yo, bro, have you seen that Masterpiece Galvatron on eBay? It's sweet as fuck." I have seen them. If you're wondering what he's talking about, a little while ago on eBay, someone had made a gorgeous customization of Classics Galvatron using Energon Galvatron, and the way that this person made it, it had the Shuraccurate paint colors, the Shuraccurate paint scheme. Of course, it had the Galvatron look, as the Energon Galvatron has, and it turned into a cannon quite well, rather than just taking out the rather than just turning into a jet. And I was talking with him about this a little while ago, but there are so many talented people in any community, and the customization in Transformers as well. There's a lot of great work in those that I think, why don't Hasbro just hire these people to make their toys? Because these toys are fantastic, and this Galvatron is, of course, it's an Energon Galvatron, but it's about roughly the size of a Masterpiece figure. So consider that the first and probably only Masterpiece figure of Galvatron that we've got so far. It's not there anymore. I think somebody already bought it, but but yeah, that figure was really fantastic. It's amazing to see how much time and energy people make into this, in terms of making figures like that. So I know that the question feels a little bit silly to answer, but yeah, that's the question. I hope you like it, Tim. Next question from V Decepticon. V, how's it going? There are two questions. Let's see. Primus Unicron or let's see. Question number one: Primus or Unicron? Unicron, because of course he's the epitome of the devil, basically, in Transformers. There's no other way to look at it. And number two, favorite old school gaming system. Well, I don't think you can actually consider this an old school console, but my favorite that I've got so far, well, the two that I've got so far, is the PlayStation and the PlayStation 2. So those, I know that those aren't exactly considered old. The PlayStation 1 is, but the PlayStation 2 is more of a it's outdated. It's an outdated console, but I still like to play it. So what more do you want? But yeah, thanks for the questions, Vig. I really appreciate it. The next question is from Bisto Yeti, and this question is, what is your favourite tipple? It took me a while to figure out what tipple means, but I finally found out it means drink. So, question is, what's your favourite drink? That's a tricky question, because in terms of a drink, there are a lot of different drinks that I really like to drink. Tea is always one of them, coffee is another one, Jack Daniels is another one. But the number one favourite that I'd have to say, which I drink on a numerous occasion and on a special occasion as well, would have to be white wine. I really like wine a lot, and one of the things as well about wine is that you can have it with just about anything, and it makes the meal good. Like for example, every time I make a curry, I always have to have wine with it, because the wine makes the flavour of the curry much more substantial, and that's what makes the curry feel good, I think, when you add wine in the recipe and when you add wine with the meal. Wine just wine, and I sound like an alcoholic here, but wine is one of those drinks that really I can't consist of existing without. Ever since I tried it many years ago. I'm not talking like a child or anything. No. I didn't try wine when I was a child, but back in my teens, I tried wine, and at first I was like, yeah, it tastes like crap. But then, as I got older, I started having it quite regularly, and it's a good drink to have. So there you go. Let's see. The next question is from Jetstorm, the reviewer. What is your favorite G1 toy that you miss from your childhood? My favorite G1 toy that I miss from my childhood would probably have to be G1 Slag. And the reason I say G1 Slag is because that was the first Transformers figure that I ever owned as a child. It was the first one that I bought. It was the first one that I really liked the look of. And when I took it home, I started playing with it and just faffing around with it. And then after a while, I lost it. I don't know what happened to it, but I would like to get a hold of that figure again, because it's the first Transformers figure that I ever owned. And it's kind of the figure that got me started into collecting. So I hope that answers the question. The next question is from TF Nolsey, and he's asked me 2 questions. Hey John, how's it going? Let's see, the 2 questions are, what is your utmost favourite anime series? I don't like answering this question because, we could be here all day if I want to go ahead and list the anime that's my #1 favorite. But if you had to beat me over the head with a blunt object in order to get the answer from me, my favorite anime series of all time, and it's really no given to what this is, would probably have to be the original Bubblegum Crisis series. 80 Police prequel and Bubblegum Crash. I don't know why a lot of people don't like Bubblegum Crash, but yeah, the original Bubblegum Crisis series for a lot of different reasons. When I first saw this back when I was in my teens, during one of my phases of getting into anime, during the early 2000s, the one show that I watched, because it was on around like midnight, on a school night as well, was Bubblegum Crisis. And I don't know what it is, but there's something about the cyberpunk mythos that I really get a lot out of. With a lot of anime like Akira and Ghost in the Shell and things like Maddox 01, the Bubblegum Crisis series manages to at least reinvent the cyberpunk genre of anime, and with it, I really find that the characters are interesting and likable as well. There's not a single one of these characters that I don't want to see die. The stories for their time are well written, I should say, even because this is an old product. But the voice acting in English is very, very good, and it's one of those series that I have held quite close to my heart because it's my #1 favorite anime, and I don't know what it is, but it's just the idea of having I can think of a lot of anime shows that have done this idea, but having like female heroines fight bad guys and all that sort of thing. It's happened before in so many anime series. There's no original idea that you can think of that doesn't do this. But Bubblegum Crisis is a very good series. It's my #1 favorite, and Crash as well. I don't know why people don't like Crash. It's not a great sequel to this, but it at least manages to tie a knot to that. Also, if you haven't watched these two, I'd highly recommend watching the 80 Police Files. A great prequel that pretty much sets up the whole character like Leon McNichol. So, in case all of you are wondering, Bubblegum Crisis, the original Bubblegum Crisis series, I never liked Tokyo 2040. I couldn't get into it. The original series of Bubblegum Crisis is my #1 favorite. The second question that he asked is what would you like to see changed or something new brought into the Transformers fiction or toy line, if that makes any sense. Something new brought into the line. Well, with the 30th anniversary of G1 coming up in 2014, I would like to see, rather than another film that follows no character development from the Transformers and just focuses on the human characters, what I would love to see more than anything is what I want to see in terms of a story, in terms of a new Transformers cartoon or whatever. I would like to see, and you consider this as just like a one-shot thing, but I would like to see an equivalent of what G.I. Joe Resolute did for their series, which was an adult-orientated Transformers miniseries or movie that makes the fiction feel a lot more real. The characters feel real. The world feel real. The mythology feel real. And that's the one thing that I really want to see from Transformers for a while. I don't know why they never did this back in 2009 for the 25th anniversary. Yeah, I would like to see an adult-orientated Transformers cartoon or movie in just animated, not in live action, because it's been done before. But because not only that as well, I would like to at least have characters in that film that I could care about as well. Because in the films there really aren't that many that I can care about. But in an adult-orientated film of Transformers, you could have the human allies being complete assholes to the Autobots and Decepticons sometime around the middle of sometime around the series, and the Autobots and Decepticons kind of really getting a bit sick and tired of the war, but at the same time uncovering a much more deeper story to what the war is actually about, if that makes any sort of sense. That's the one thing I would like to see in a new side of fiction. It probably won't ever happen, but one can dream. One can dream. Also, in terms of toy line, let's see. I would like to see more of the classics figures again. Not only that, I would like to see more of the alternators again, because I do like the alternators line a lot. So there you go. I hope that answers the question. Thanks a lot, John. Next question is from Soundblast 2009. Do you like Thanos? Not really. I've never really read any much of the Avengers. I really couldn't care that much about the Avengers, and Thanos just doesn't come across as one of those characters in Marvel that I can really call as interesting. So, plus I don't know that much about Thanos. I know that he's a very widely regarded villain in Marvel Comics, but I just don't think he's that special personally. So, what more can you say? I'm sorry if that doesn't if that answers your question, but there you go. I don't like Thanos, so there you go. But thanks for your question though. Next question is from Emily Pickle. If you could be any fictional character for a day, who would you choose to be and why? You know, in terms of a fictional character, there really are so many different characters I can choose that that I like, that I would choose to be, because those characters are compelling and those characters have a lot to offer for the story that they're trying to be involved in. Probably Jubei Kibagami from Ninja Scroll. If you've never seen Ninja Scroll, I highly recommend watching it. It's a good film. Probably because in Ninja Scroll you see Jubei fighting off the 7 demons of Kimon. Also, not the 7 demons. The demons of Kimon, and you see him fighting off against Genma. And other than that, he's pretty much a character that is devoted to his own cause. He's a vagabond. He's a ronin, and he's just one of those characters that really that shined a lot in my childhood when I first saw him in Ninja Scroll. But other than that, who else would I be? Probably Snake Plissken from Escape from New York. I don't know why I said. I don't know why I'm thinking about Snake Plissken all of a sudden, but Snake Plissken because he's a character that just doesn't give a shit. He's a character that is a completely selfish character who's only out to prolong his own existence. And at the end of Escape from LA, I know that's a bad film, but at the end of Escape from LA, you see him pretty much shut down the 500-year process of humanity in electronics, and you just see him light a cigarette at the end and just chuckle. So he doesn't really seem to care. But I don't know what character I'd be. Jesus. There's so many different characters that I like in the stories that I've read and watched as a child. But, I honestly don't know how I can answer that question. There are so many different characters I can be, but it's hard to try and find one that I really would think would kind of suit my personality. But, either of those two, I don't know, but yeah, thanks for the question, Emily. Thanks a lot for your question, Emily. I really appreciate it. Next question is from RatTrap25. Sam, here's my question. How did you hear about Auto Assembly? Well, this isn't really much of a question, but it isn't really anything all that major. But I first heard about Auto Assembly back during 2003. And this was the first Transformers. This was the first Auto Assembly that I ever went to. When I first heard about it, I immediately wanted to go. And even though it was kind of a problem to get there, I still had a lot of fun. I didn't meet any people because at that time I was just interested in the toys. But at the time, when I first went to Auto Assembly, I can tell that I would keep coming here every so often and just enjoy myself every time I would come here. So when I first heard about it, it was back during 2003. So well, that answers the question. Next question is from. He's got 3 questions. SegaMan19. He's got 3 questions. Let's see. Number 1. Worst anime you ever watched? Oh Jesus Christ. Worst anime that I have ever watched? I really don't like answering this question because believe it or not, the list is actually quite long. There are quite a lot of animes out there that I really do not like. I won't list them all off because there are a lot of fan bases out there that will kind of defend these to the nth degree. So if you want to defend them, then that's fine. But I just don't like them. But the worst one that I can think of off the top of my head that I really can't stand. Would probably have to be Rosiaro to Vampire, a very obscure title, but it's a title in the harem genre that I really have a problem with. I don't like the harem genre of anime because it has a very terrible way of portraying female characters and male characters and just acting completely irregular in how they behave. But Roast Yarrow to Vampire is a series that I really, really can't stand, and here's why. Not only is it a harem, but it seems that all the characters in that show, and in that manga, are completely fucking retarded. They all seem to just think that, well, the female characters, they either come across as, when you first meet them, they come across as too weak, and they throw themselves at the male character, Tsukune, and I don't know why. There really isn't anything that interesting about the male character that you can think is remarkable. But yeah, Roast Yarrow to Vampire is another example of how the harem genre just needs to just end. Because it's a genre that really... I don't know who the harem genre is supposed to appeal to when it comes to anime and manga, because it's a genre that really... It's not very well written. The characters are completely stupid. The setting is... Well, I wouldn't say unoriginal, but the setting is as bland as the story itself. And not just that, though, is that with every harem anime that has ever existed, and will probably continue to exist until the end of time, there's nothing original to be found from it, though. If I can watch a harem anime and say, oh, well, it's fucking awful, the characters are awful, the settings are awful, what do you want? But if at some point we can see a harem anime where the male character isn't completely just a submissive, cowardly weakling, and all the female characters just throw themselves at him, and he can only just pick one from the four that want to get on top of him, then I guess that's okay. But yeah, Roast Yarrow to Vampire. Don't get me started on Roast Yarrow to Vampire, because if you're in a conversation with me and the first thing you say is Roast Yarrow to Vampire, I will argue about that for hours on it. So just so you know. Not only that as well, but I don't like Lucky Star, so I've never really liked Lucky Star, but there you go. Second question is, what's the most surprising Transformers anime fact you learned via the internet? Surprising fact. Well, the only surprising fact that I can think of, and this is one that has stood out quite well over the years, is that there's a huge community based around this sort of thing. And the community of, community and fandom in general is very loyal to both anime and Transformers. And the Transformers side of it, of course, has been going since the 1980s. And it's one of those that will forever continue to exist beyond its time. And there are people out there that love the franchise, that have a dedication towards it, in terms of creative perspective and a lot of insightful creative knowledge in the franchise, in terms of storytelling, in terms of toy making, in terms of anything involved in Transformers. And not only that, there are so many different ways you can take Transformers in terms of a fan perspective. With anime, it's a much more different thing, because anime, let's face it, has been going for many years. And the fact that I've learned from anime is, like Transformers, and like any other franchise out there that has a loyal cult following, the cult following of anime to this day still manages to maintain quite strong, even though anime right now is kind of really in a deadlocked state. In that we've got some good things and we've got some bad things. With the bad things kind of really raising a big hold on anime at the moment, with the current genres like harem and moe and all that high school nonsense. And at the moment, I just don't see. I think that anime right now is kind of really on the verge of just dying at the moment. But before you say anything, I'm one of these people that really has had a huge love for old anime, and I don't hate all new anime though. There's some potential I can see in the new anime that old anime can't do. But unfortunately nowadays, most new anime just seems to be nothing but the harem genre, the moe genre, the high school genre. Anything that seems to be emphasis on cute, and there's no originality left in anime anymore. You can really top that. And the fact that I've learned about it is that there's so many different there's so many different cultures that you can build around it. Though, and when I say cultures, anime has become an important part of pop culture history, and it's one of those things that you can't really avoid, no matter how hard you try and move away from it. But yeah, those are the two facts I've learned whilst being on the internet and learning about Transformers and anime, so there you go. Question 3. How did you get bitten by the do a YouTube review bug? Well, there really isn't an easy, there really isn't a hard answer to this one. How did I get bitten by it isn't really that complicated, because, let's see, it was back during 2008, and it was during auto assembly, and I met Dave Clark for the first time. And I said to him I've been watching this stuff for quite a while, and it's very short and to the point. And around the time when I got a laptop with a built-in webcam, and this was back in 2009, I then started to do videos, because I figure that since I've watched these people for quite a while, and there's a huge community based around this reviewing thing, and it's still going on to this day, I figured, why not? And I have been here for quite a little while enough to know that there are people out there that like to do this sort of thing as a hobby, and I do it as a hobby because it's fun. But how I got bitten by it, I got inspired by a lot of people that I watch, so that's the answer I can give. I hope that helps. So thanks, Sega Man. I think your name's Chris, is it? Yeah, thanks, Chris. The final questions are from Vigadeth, Dorian by the gods, who's cut his hair. And these are 3 questions. Let's see. Who did you kill to have such epic facial hair? I didn't kill anybody to have such epic facial hair, it just got this way. And the way that my facial hair grows as well is that, at the moment I've got if you can see right already, I've got a goatee that is kind of overlonging a little bit, and of course as you can pretty much tell, I have a little bit of, if you can see it or not, my facial hair is ginger. I don't know how, but I think I must inherit that from my dad, but anyway, I didn't kill anybody to get this facial hair, it just got here the way it was, and, the way that it grows as well is that, the way that my facial hair grows as well, it takes a while for it to really, shape up, and it just grows out, it just sticks out like a bush. So every time it sticks out, I have to trim it down and make sure that it's, at the right shape and it's even and whatnot. And the goatee, since it's November, I haven't bothered to shave. I can't be asked to shave at the moment. I won't probably shave this off until after Christmas. Then I can finally have a reason to grow it again. But I didn't kill anybody to have this facial hair, and even though a lot of people said that I'm like Jesus, it'd be kind of weird if I was the second coming. But yeah, what is with the eyebrow? Is it a scar or a design choice? Right. I don't like answering this question, but the reason for the scar on this eyebrow is if you can see it. Okay, I'm just lifting up the camera right now. The reason for the scar right there is because I bashed my head on the corner of a table when I was a baby. There really isn't any secret behind that. I bashed my head on the corner of a table when I was a baby, and since then that scar has been in my eyebrow for quite some time. And even though hair has managed to grow around it, no hair has grown into it, so it's stuck out for quite a while. So I didn't do this to myself on purpose. I didn't get into a fight or anything. I've had this scar all my life, and it's one of those scars that sticks out on my head, so there you go. And the last question is, if you were a judge, what would your badass name be? What would your badass name and badass judge based on one-liner? And no Judge Skullgrin or anything like that. Badass judge, and he knows he knows I'm a big Judge Dredd fan. Probably Judge Chaos, or Judge Anarchy or something. And probably my one-liner for Judge Chaos would be, my one-liner for Judge Chaos. See, I need a little bit of time to think about this. My one-liner for Judge Chaos would probably be, run all you like, mortals, you cannot escape chaos, because chaos will find you. Or anything like that. I honestly don't know, because, being one of the dark, if I was one of the dark judges, it would probably have to be Judge Chaos, or Judge Ruin, or probably if I was a character like Judge Ruin, no matter how hard you try, your buildings will collapse at the sight of me, or something like that. I'm not good at one-liners, so probably Judge Chaos or Judge Ruin. Any one of those will do. Yeah, so thanks a lot for your question, Vigadeth. I really appreciate it. So there you go. That's pretty much the questions answered. Thanks a lot to the people who who took the time to ask these questions to me. This has been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing one of these again. So at some point I probably will do this in 2013. I won't do this too much, but doing all these Q&A videos is fun. It's nice when you talk to your subscribers as well. So anyway, thanks a lot for the questions, everybody. I will see you all soon with another review, hopefully sometime in a few weeks in a week from now. So until then, everybody, take care. See you all soon.